You know, one of the biggest mistakes men make when texting women, especially the ones they're really into, is trying to be too clear too fast. They over-explain, overcompensate, and in doing so, they eliminate the very thing that draws a woman in, the sense of mystery. You see, clarity is great for business contracts and traffic laws, but in attraction, clarity too soon kills curiosity. And once curiosity dies, so does desire. Women are not confused by mystery. They're stimulated by it. It's not about being vague to the point of frustration, but rather about being intentionally ambiguous in a way that keeps her engaged, thinking, wondering. Because when a woman is wondering about you, she's emotionally invested. And emotional investment, not physical attraction, is what keeps her coming back to the conversation. Most men text like they're applying for a job. Every message is designed to prove worthiness, to avoid rejection, to be liked. But a man who understands the psychology of desire knows that the most powerful texts are the ones that imply more than they say. A simple, "You're trouble, aren't you?" is 10 times more powerful than, "I really like you and want to get to know you better." The first one intrigues her. It opens a loop in her mind. The second one closes the loop and satisfies her curiosity before it even had a chance to breathe. Game over. This is what I call ambiguous boldness. It's the art of saying something with emotional weight without handing her the full instruction manual. You create space for her imagination to run wild. And let's be honest, the female imagination is incredibly rich. When you give her just enough to feel something, but not enough to fully figure you out, you become psychologically sticky. Your words stay with her because she's still trying to decode them long after the conversation ends. It's like reading a novel where the author doesn't spell everything out. You keep turning the pages, not because everything is handed to you, but because there's something deeper between the lines. The ambiguity draws you in. And when you finally get to the climax, the resolution matters because the build-up meant something. That's the kind of experience women want from communication with a man. Not just emotional safety, but emotional depth. And depth requires contrast, tension, and a little bit of unknown. Think about this. Confidence isn't loud. It's not about being aggressive or showing off. Real confidence is quiet, poised, and layered. When you send a bold text without any need to follow it up with disclaimers or justifications, it signals that you trust in your own value. And when a woman feels that, she doesn't just see you as someone who wants her attention. She sees you as someone she wants to understand. You flip the dynamic. Now, this doesn't mean you become cold or aloof. That's another extreme. Ambiguous boldness is a calibrated dance. You reveal just enough of yourself to be emotionally provocative, and then you pull back, not out of fear, but out of strength. You're not trying to control the narrative, you're creating space within it so she can enter, explore, and participate in the experience of discovering you. That's what makes texting magnetic. Not the emojis, not the rapid responses, not the long-winded compliments. It's the restraint, the courage to say something powerful and then let it breathe. Because when a woman has to feel into your message instead of just reading it, you're no longer texting her. You're living in her mind. And that's where the real connection begins. When you become the mystery she wants to solve, you become the story she can't put down. One of the deepest truths most men miss in the world of attraction, especially when it comes to texting, is that desire doesn't grow in presence. It grows in absence. And the paradox here is powerful. The more accessible you are, the less value she places on your presence. But when you're selectively available, when you withdraw just enough to create space, that space becomes charged with emotional meaning. It's in that distance where attraction actually breathes. Now think about it. When something is always available, it becomes ordinary, Familiarity breeds comfort, yes, but it also breeds predictability. And nothing suffocates female desire faster than knowing exactly what you're going to say, exactly when you're going to say it, and how often you're going to reach out. What once felt exciting now feels expected. What once sparked her imagination now just blends into the background noise of her day. But scarcity creates intrigue. When you're not constantly texting, when you don't always respond within seconds, when you take your time and move with deliberate restraint, you stop being part of the white noise and start becoming a presence she notices. Why? Because human psychology is wired to chase what is uncertain, to crave what is rare. We're not drawn to what we understand. We're drawn to what we almost understand, but don't quite have. This is what I call the scarcity seduction principle. It's not about manipulation. It's about being grounded in your own emotional autonomy. You're not using silence as a tactic. You're letting your space communicate confidence. You don't need to flood her with messages to prove you're interested. You let your absence speak, and when you do show up, it carries weight. It means something. The men who constantly seek connection through their phones often don't realize what they're actually signaling. It's not affection, it's anxiety. It's the inability to hold tension. And when a woman feels that energy, she may not always know how to name it, but she feels it instinctively. She senses you're chasing emotional reassurance more than you're holding masculine presence. And what she really wants is the latter. She wants to feel that you have a full life that she gets to be invited into, not that you're waiting by your phone hoping she validates you. Let me put it this way. If every time you're out of her sight, you're also out of her mind, then you were never truly in her heart to begin with. But if you can hold space, if you can be absent while still feeling emotionally present in her thoughts, that's when you've truly made an impact. So don't be afraid to take your time to reply. Don't rush to initiate every conversation. Don't assume silence is a threat. In fact, silence can be one of the most powerful tools in the language of attraction when used with purpose. What you're doing is allowing her emotional mind to fill in the blanks. You're letting her feel the absence of your energy. And if you've left the right impression, that absence will echo louder than 100 texts ever could. Because here's the truth. Attention is cheap. Availability is common. But presence, wrapped in mystery, that's rare. And rare is what women remember. Rare is what women chase. So the next time you feel the urge to keep the conversation going, just to keep her interested, stop. Breathe. Let her miss you. Let the silence stir something, because if she's emotionally invested, the gap won't push her away, it will pull her in. The man she texts all day becomes forgettable. The man she wonders about becomes unforgettable. There's a reason why some messages linger in your mind long after they're read, while others fade the moment you put your phone down. And when it comes to attraction, that difference isn't in the words themselves. It's in the timing and the absence that follows. This is where one of the most psychologically potent texting strategies comes into play, the one I call the hook and vanish technique. It's deceptively simple. You say something intriguing, emotionally charged, or playfully suggestive, and then you go silent. You let the message hang in the air like a note unresolved. Most men rush to fill every silence. They double text, over-explain, or check in anxiously to see if she's seen it. But the man who understands emotional psychology doesn't panic in the silence. He uses it. Here's what's happening under the surface. When you send a message that disrupts her emotional rhythm, something unexpected, something that nudges curiosity or sparks playful tension, and then you don't immediately follow it up, her brain starts doing the work for you. The message becomes an open loop. Her mind replays it, looking for meaning, context, and closure. That's how emotional hooks are formed. Not in the message alone, but in the space that follows it. Think of it like this. In music, the most powerful part of a melody isn't always the notes. It's the silence between them. That space gives the sound meaning. The same is true in communication. When you say something bold and disappear, you're creating a rhythm she subconsciously tunes into. And because you're not immediately available to resolve the tension, she has no choice but to sit with it. That's where emotional intensity builds. Let's say you text something like, "You're the kind of dangerous I could get addicted to," and then you don't text again for hours. You're not ghosting. You're allowing space. And in that space, something magical happens. You stop being just a guy on her phone and start becoming a presence in her emotional world. Now, does this work on every woman? No. But the ones who are emotionally engaged, who are even slightly interested, you'll find they lean in harder, faster, and deeper than if you had kept the conversation going. Why? Because emotional tension demands resolution. And when you vanish after creating that tension, she feels the pull to bring you back into her awareness. That's when she starts texting first. That's when she checks your stories. That's when she becomes the one chasing you. But here's the nuance. The hook and vanish isn't about playing games. It's not manipulation. It only works when the hook is authentic, when you're saying something real, something reflective of your personality or intent. If it's forced or generic, the silence will just feel confusing. But if it's aligned with who you are, the silence becomes powerful. It becomes magnetic. And don't underestimate how rare this is. Most people in the modern world are terrified of silence. We fill every gap with content, updates, replies. But the man who can sit in silence after creating an emotional spark, that man becomes unforgettable. He triggers something primal, the same instinct that makes us crave what's just out of reach. He gives her a taste and then disappears, not to punish her, but to deepen the intrigue. So instead of thinking, what can I say next to keep her interested? Ask yourself, what can I say that's worth thinking about even when I'm not around? That's the real secret. Say less, mean more, and let her chase the silence you leave behind. When it comes to texting, most men focus on what to say. What line will impress her? What emoji looks playful? How to sound smooth? But very few understand the deeper emotional rhythm that makes texting irresistible. It's not just about being clever or funny. It's about tension and contrast. And that's where this final principle comes into play. Mirroring her tone at first. And then flipping the frame. Now let's break that down. At the beginning of any texting exchange, you want to build rapport. That means matching her energy, her pace, her tone. If she's being light and playful, don't drop a serious monologue. If she's being formal and reserved, don't come in with overly flirtatious comments. Mirroring is a psychological signal of safety. It tells her, we're in sync. You're seen. You're understood. It's subtle, but it lays the emotional groundwork. But here's the critical piece. You don't stay in that comfort zone for long. Once you've established that emotional resonance, that feeling of we're vibing, that's when you shift gears. That's when you introduce contrast. Because comfort may make her feel safe, but contrast is what makes her feel alive. This is what I mean by flipping the frame. You move from playing it safe to playfully challenging her, teasing her, even disagreeing with her in a way that creates a bit of emotional friction, not conflict, friction. There's a difference. It might look like this. She says something cute, and you respond with, "You're trouble. I can already tell." Or she sends you a selfie, and instead of praising it the way most men would, you say, 6.8 out of 10. Not bad. Delivered with the right energy, that kind of response disrupts the pattern. And that disruption electrifies the dynamic. Because what you're doing here is reasserting your frame. You're not just another guy following her lead. You're showing that you're comfortable creating a dynamic that she has to respond to. That's a rare quality. Most men are passive in texting. They react, they adapt, they agree. But the man who can create emotional movement, who can push and pull with intention, becomes unforgettable. And make no mistake, this isn't about being rude or trying to assert dominance. That's not masculine energy. That's insecurity dressed up in bravado. What women respond to is emotional leadership. The ability to take the interaction somewhere more interesting, more playful, more unexpected. That's what flipping the frame is all about. When you shift from mirroring to leading, you move the conversation from neutral to charged. You take it from, this is nice, to this is exciting. And in that emotional charge, that little spike of adrenaline, that feeling of, what's he going to say next? That's where real attraction lives. Texting becomes more than just communication. It becomes an experience, and you're the one curating it. You're not just there to validate her or impress her. You're there to engage her mind, challenge her just enough to spark curiosity, and show her that talking to you isn't predictable, it's dynamic. That's the real game. Not texting more, not texting faster, but texting with intention. Texting in a way that shifts emotional gears, that moves from warmth to intrigue, from safety to tension, from comfort to captivation. Because at the end of the day, the men women remember are not the ones who played it safe. They're the ones who took the conversation somewhere unexpected and made her feel something she didn't see coming. Match her energy, then flip the script and watch her lean in harder every time